Apologise for that. Right, anyway, let's get down to it. Right, well, my name's Alison, and I just want to thank you so much for inviting me here to be able to share some of the work of Compassion. Now, I'm a volunteer with Compassion, and I've been sponsoring with them for over 20 years. And at the moment, I'm currently sponsoring 4 lovely girls. It was 3 until I volunteered at Spring Harvest and I just had to sponsor another child. She was called Alison, little 6-year-old from El Salvador, cute as anything. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Quick phone call to husband. Can we have another one? So I'm a bit of a sucker. But over those 20 years of sponsoring children with Compassion, I have heard so many inspiring testimonies of the transformational power of the work of Compassion sponsorship. So today I want to just share a bit about Compassion's work as an international children's charity and celebrate your involvement with them and encourage you all to continue supporting them and further support their work. But first of all, I've just got a few questions. Who has a house to live in? Yeah. Who had breakfast this morning and is going to go home and have lunch and dinner? Who's bought some new clothes or shoes recently? Yeah. Do any of the young people have computer games? Or the older people? Have you ever been to the doctor and not had to pay? Who goes to school or has been to school? College, university? Who's ever had a swimming lesson, a dance class, a sports club, been to scouts or guides, learnt to play an instrument? And you've ever been to the cinema, the theatre, fitness class, or belonged to a sports club? I think you got tired putting your hands up. Well, these things, they might just seem really ordinary to us and nothing special. But you are extremely fortunate because, as I'm sure you're aware, that sadly, that's not the case for millions of people around the world. In fact, over 330 million, now that's approximately the same as the population of the USA, 330 million of God's precious children struggle every day just to find enough water and food to survive. Now, that's a really overwhelming statistic. And it's easy to feel powerless and think, well, what on earth can I do? How can I make a difference? Well, I know I used to feel like that years ago, when my own 2 children were small and before I'd heard about Compassion. I didn't know what I could do as a stay-at-home mum of 2. So I ignored the problem. I buried my head in the sand and I did nothing to fight against or stand up for the injustice of poverty. However, as Christians, we have a biblical mandate to make a stand, and to care for the poor and the marginalized. There are many passages in the Bible which reflect this. It says in Isaiah 58, verses 6 to 9, "Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen, to loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood. Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and he will say, 'Here am I.'" In our relationship with God, we're not only transformed ourselves, but we are to become agents of transformation in others and become part of the rebuilding and restoring of that which was broken by sin. Compassion and care for the poor and for those in need was a consistent thread that ran through Jesus' ministry. The Gospels are littered with stories of Jesus healing people and reaching out to the poor and marginalised. In Luke 4:16-21, at the very start of his ministry, Jesus stood up in the synagogue and laid out his manifesto, the purpose of his mission. He read from Isaiah 61, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour." So where does that leave us? As followers and imitators of Christ, and as people who wish to live a life that honours God, where does that leave us in regard to the issue of the injustice of child poverty? We have a clear call to act, but how do we do so given the enormity of the problem? How do we proclaim good news to the poor? Proclaim freedom for those imprisoned by the cycle of poverty? How do we set those oppressed by poverty free and proclaim the Lord's favour? Do we bury our heads in the sand, as I did, and hope someone else will deal with it? Or do we say, "Here I am, God, show me what I can do"? Now, there's an old African proverb, "How do you eat an elephant?" Any ideas? One bite at a time, that's right. And then in Matthew 25, the culmination of the passage of the sheep and goats, it says, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me." So this is where compassion comes in. With the help and support of people like you and me, at Compassion we say, one child at a time. If we can change the world for one child, we will begin to change the world. Now, I know you support children here, but just to give you a background on Compassion, it was founded in 1952, and we partner with local churches in 29 countries. They've recently expanded into 4 new countries: Myanmar, Malawi, Cambodia, and Zambia. And Compassion works to nurture and protect more than 2 million children living in poverty. Our heart at Compassion is to give children and young people the opportunity to thrive and reach their God-given potential, both now and into the future, primarily through one-to-one child sponsorship, but also through specific intervention projects. Compassion's ministry is threefold. It's Christ-centered. Jesus is at the heart of all we do. It's church-driven. We partner with more than 8,500 local churches and equip them to serve their local community. They know their community intimately. They know the needs, so they can tailor the support and the programs, activities and interventions accordingly. So your sponsorship of a child not only means you're answering God's call to loose the chains of injustice and set the oppressed free, but you're also standing alongside and equipping a local church which is dealing with child poverty in its community to answer this call too and be Jesus's hands and feet in their local community, just in the same way that you want to be God's hands and feet in this community with your project that we were just talking about. So you're standing alongside a local church. And Compassion is child-focused. We intentionally focus on children as they are the ones most vulnerable to the devastating effects of poverty. The support the children receive is holistic and covers every core area of their lives: their physical and mental well-being. They cultivate character and give children and young people the skills, access to education, and motivation they need to be self-sufficient in the future. The care is given in the context of a local church community where children and their families can experience practical expressions of God's love. Now, I'm just so delighted that you already support the work of compassion. I just want to spend some time now just celebrating what you're doing and say what an incredible thing you're doing. Poverty robs children of hope and leaves them feeling neglected and worthless. But your support really does make a difference and is transforming these children's lives. Can I have the next slide, please? So these are the 34 precious children, 16 boys and 18 girls, that you sponsor at this church. And through them, you are playing your part in helping to release children from poverty in Jesus' name. 14 of them are primary school aged, 19 are teenagers, and there's one young adult. Next one. They come from 15 different countries, including Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Haiti, and the Philippines. Next one. So in the last year, that one. In the last year, over £18,000 of financial support has been given, and 18 additional gifts. These could be a gift for the child's birthday, a gift to their family, or a Christmas gift. Thank you so much for your generosity. Your support really is making a life-changing difference to these 34 precious children. Now, there's lots of statistics here, and the numbers shown here and on the previous slide, they represent so much more than just numbers. They represent life-changing experiences for the children, their families, and their communities. Every Saturday, the children will attend their local compassion project, which is run by local compassion staff and church volunteers, people like you and me, serving their own community. The project is a place that is vibrant, it's safe, it's full of love. It's a place where they get nutritious meals, they receive medical checkups. It's a place where they can get help with their school studies and learn vocational skills. It's a place where they hear the word of God. It's somewhere to play and just be a child. And importantly, it's a place where they can dream, where they can hope, where they can plan for the future. Next one. Now, letter writing is such a valuable part of your sponsorship. In the last year, the children have written 114 letters, but only 45 have been written by sponsors. I really would urge and encourage you to write to the children. They love receiving letters and photos. It just helps them to connect with you, their sponsor. Compassion did some research, and they found that even only 2 letters a year had a positive impact on the children. So I really would encourage you to write, even if it's only a few lines. A letter gives you the opportunity to send words of encouragement, of love, and of hope to the children. Letters tell them that someone cares for them and is praying for them and is willing to invest time in them. It assures the children they are known, loved, and valued. A compassion graduate at Richmond said that the money changed his circumstances, but the words from his sponsors' letters and from the Loving Project staff, the words changed his heart. Without words of affirmation and encouragement, he would have run away from poverty. Sponsorship and the education he was able to receive gave him the tools to do so. But his change in his heart meant he wanted to change the world. He became an accountant with a desire to change corrupt business practices. And many graduates stay in their local community and work to change things there. Now, I know letter writing can be so difficult, And that's one thing I struggle with as a sponsor too. So I've got some suggestions on display at the back. So please do come and have a look and have a chat. And yeah, this slide here says one easy way to write letters and see regular updates is to download the Compassion app. So if you want more details on that, do come and have a chat with me. And so finally, let's put a slide. So on behalf of Compassion and of course the children, a huge thank you. You're making an incredible difference to children living in extreme poverty. Now, these figures don't give the full impact that sponsorship has. Compassion Child Sponsorship is so much more than just helping one child living in poverty. Your sponsorship of a child is like dropping a pebble into a pond. It will send out ripples affecting the child's family, their community, and even beyond that. Changing the world for one child begins to change the world. Graduates of compassion programs often become change makers, bringing hope and transformation to their families, communities, countries, and beyond. Now, I could share many stories that I've heard of the life-transforming effect of sponsorship, but we've got a video here, and it's Hilda who's sharing her own story.
My name is Hilda. I am the 8th child in a family of 10 children. We didn't have much money growing up, and we lived in one room. When I was 5 years old, my dad had an accident which left him unable to work. We had no money for food, and I was very scared. I felt like no one cared about me, and I didn't matter. Then everything changed. When I was 9, one of our neighbors told me about Compassion at my local church. I was sponsored through Compassion, and I started to go to the project every week. I was fed there, and I learned how to take care of myself. I learned I was special and that God loved me. My sponsor wrote me letters. They loved me so much, even though we never met in person. I am so thankful for my sponsor and everything they did for me. I will remember them until the last day of my life. Without their help, my life would be so different. All I can say is thank you so much for your love, which showed me God's love. Together, the church, Compassion, and my sponsors made me feel valued and gave me a new future.
My name is Hilda. This is my story.
Wow, it always gets me every time. The sponsorship of Hilda not only transformed her life, but that of her family and her community. So today I'd love to encourage you to join with me in changing the world for one child and so begin to change the world. Can I have the final slide of the PowerPoint up? There was one left on it. Oh, while they're whizzing, while they're trying to find it, it's not that. No. Right. Right, I've got the profiles of 9, oh, let me move out of the way, lovely children with me today. They're all from the same project in Ghana. We've got lovely Gloria here. I apologise for my abysmal pronunciation. It goes downhill after Gloria. Agaya Asi. There's Franklin. Hang on. Oh, Hannah. We've got Hannah. We've got Blessing. Najete. Kwaku. I can't pronounce these. And Kessie. These wonderful, lovely children. I wonder what hopes and dreams these children would have if they were lifted from the cycle of poverty. Do we have a budding doctor, a nurse, a teacher, a musician, an artist, a mechanic, an engineer, policeman? Oh, I could go on and on. Graduates have gone on to many of these roles. There are some nurses that work in our NHS that were compassion graduates. And recently, I haven't had her full story yet, but there's somebody who's just joined our church whose brother was sponsored. And it's like, I need to hear your story. Can you transform their lives into one of hopes, dreams, and ambition for the future and enable them to become all God made them to be? Now, it says up here it's £32 a month, and some of you may be sitting there thinking, oh, that's an awful lot. It's a tough current economic climate these days. Could you share the sponsorship with 1 or 2 other people? We often have groups of people sponsoring children. Could you become a letter writer for an existing sponsor? Could you donate a smaller amount regularly or one-off gifts to go towards the compassion intervention projects? And could you become a prayer warrior for the children sponsored here at Vine Church and for the work of compassion? I'd just like to finish today with a verse from Proverbs. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to act. Do not say to your neighbour, come back tomorrow and I'll give it to you, when you already have it with you. Thank you.